Hey guys, welcome to another video on sentence structures and critical reading. I'm trying to give you some, content that is a little difficult to read. And it's very easy to find good content. I mean, you are the lucky generation because you have access to a lot of really good stuff available for free. So you can go to Google Books, for example. I just pulled out this book called Linguistic Anthropology from Google Books and found a couple of wonderful paragraphs. So what I'll do is try to show you how to, read difficult stuff. And this is the kind of content that's been coming up in CAT passages. And if you've been giving mocks, for CAT, you would be already aware of the kind of content that you will see probably in the CAT paper. But I'll also try to integrate in this particular, lesson how to read well. Okay, I'm not discussing questions, so the people who are only worried about questions and answering them, this is not the video for them. I'm making this video for people who want to learn how to read well, because once you learn how to read well, doesn't matter what are the questions, anybody can set the questions and the options, you would be able to do well. You have to learn. So this video is particularly for people who want to understand how to read well, and also apply the rules that I taught in critical reading and critical reasoning and sentence structures. Whatever rules you've learned there, I'll try to show them to you in this particular passage. So anyway, for example, if you start reading from here, Bodo has been particularly influential in the critique of culture as a rational system made up of beliefs or hierarchically organized rules. Okay, so already slightly tricky, isn't it? First sentence itself. And when you come across words like these, students who are not used to reading complex stuff, the word doesn't roll over very neatly in your head. So remember, you don't get marks for pronouncing the words correctly. You don't have to worry about it, which is why it's not a really bad idea to skip the bigger words, because your eyes can see it. You're reading hierarchy, right? So you don't have to hierarchically organized rules. Kind of slows you down a little bit. So skip the pronunciation, don't worry so much, but read what he's trying to say more like. Okay, so Bodo has been particularly influential in what said. This is useless information. Okay, what he has been influential with something. We're going to talk about that anyway. So this is not the information that we're worried about. What this guy wants to discuss is the critique. Critique here is not criticism. Critique is basically explanation of something. Okay, so a movie review, for example, is a critique of the movie. It's not criticism. It's like both pros and cons. It's analysis. Okay, critique. So the critique of culture, this is the definition of culture: a rational system made up of beliefs or hierarchically organized rules. So this is the definition of culture as given by Bodo. That's idea number one. Okay, so Bodo has been particularly influential in the critique of culture as a rational system made up of, it's a rational system made up of beliefs or hierarchically organized rules. So this is, if you notice, two different ideas in one sentence, isn't it? Bodo has been particularly influential in the critique of culture, idea number one. And what is culture? Culture is a rational system made up of beliefs or hierarchically organized rules. Two different ideas. Okay, now he has stressed the importance of, again, the idea is further elaborated, socialization and the priority of our lived experience over our rationalization and thematization of distinct social categories and norms. So this, again, repetition, because it says he has stressed the importance, means the idea is not going to change. The idea is going to come back again. What he says is socialization is more important, priority of our lived experience. Lived experience means how you share your space with other people, how you've lived, what you felt while living, isn't it? Hoping you're not dead inside, like some of us are. Socialization and the priority of our lived experience over our rationalization and thematization of distinct social categories and norms. Okay, so socialization and priority of our lived experience. See, now you have to, this is where sentence structures come into play. He has stressed the importance of X. Okay, that's the idea. The idea ends there. He has stressed the importance of something, that something is X. What is that X? Socialization, number one. And the second one is really long. Socialization is one. The priority of our lived experience over our rationalization and thematization of distinct social categories and norms. This is the second one. So socialization plus prioritizing our lived experience over rationalization and thematization of distinct social categories and norms. So this entire thing, right? The priority of our lived experience over our rational. This is what we call a phrase, because it doesn't have a subject-verb combination. If you remember, it's not a complete idea. So he has stressed the importance of A and B. That's the idea of the sentence. A is socialization, B is prioritization. So he has stressed the importance of socialization and prioritization. Prioritization of what? Of lived experience over our own internal rationalization, how we live rather than how we. So what is rationalization? Rationalization is basically you justifying stuff in your own head, okay? And most of the times people do this a lot, right? Let's say you do not like what's happening to you, or you do not like the idea that you're unable to put in a lot of effort. You rationalize it by saying, hey, I'm not that lucky, or whatever. Luck matters, but rationalization is basically you trying to make sense of things that are out of your control. That's rationalization. And thematization of distinct social categories and norms. This perspective, which attempts to integrate the Heideggerian theme of the primacy of our being in the world with traditional social science methods, provides a model of symbolic domination based on unconscious dispositions inculcated through participation in routine interactions rather than through cognitive process ascribed to a rational subject. This is the one that will turn your world topsy-turvy, isn't it? Sentences like these. You cannot read it in one breath if you are a bad reader. You can read it in one breath only if you're a good reader, because this has multiple parts. I'll show you. This perspective, see, this is what we call the double comma pair, okay? Always watch out for a double comma pair. The double comma pair is basically information inside brackets, okay? It's like the author's, in the midway, the author realizes this perspective, and the author says, hey, I didn't explain this perspective well. So the author gives you extra information. What perspective? This perspective attempts to integrate the Heideggerian theme. This is an idea. There's an inception of ideas here, okay, mind you. So what then the author realizes, okay, I did not even explain to them what is Heideggerian theme. Basically the name of one of the researchers, academicians, we don't need to go deep into that. But what is the Heideggerian theme? The theme is primacy of our being in the world with traditional social science methods, okay? So to integrate the Heideggerian theme of the primacy of our being in the world, so Heideggerian theme is this part, okay? The Heideggerian theme is the primacy of our being in the world. Now, if you have really good readers who have straight away connected this part, primacy of our being in the world is nothing but lived experience. And authors really do this. It's annoying, but you'll have to learn how to deal with it. They do not repeat the same expression again and again. They'll try to use newer and newer words because obviously when you're writing, you won't remember, right, what you said last time. So lived experience has been repeated as primacy of our being in the world. Prioritization of our lived experience is equal to primacy of our being in the world. It's exactly the same thing. That is the Heideggerian theme. Okay. Now, this perspective of socialization and prioritization being more important than rationalization and thematization, that is the perspective. See, the pronouns are therefore very useful. Okay, when it says this perspective, the really good reader already knows which perspective. The bad readers do not pay attention, just end up reading the whole sentence. Then you realize, hey, I didn't understand this sentence. Okay, so this perspective, the perspective that socialization and prioritization are very important, prioritization of lived experience over rationalization and thematization, that perspective attempts to integrate 1 and 2. What is 1? Primacy of our being in the world, and 2 is traditional social science methods. Okay, so it integrates these two, that perspective. This perspective, the double comma pair, basically is brackets, right? So the actual sentence is, this perspective provides a model of symbolic domination, okay, based on unconscious dispositions. What is disposition? It's your what you are inclined to do is your disposition, okay? What you feel like doing or what you do subconsciously is a disposition. So model of symbolic domination based on unconscious dispositions. And where did the unconscious dispositions come? Inculcated means something that has been grown inside you, inculcated through how? Participation in routine interaction. Now this is again repetition, okay? Participation in routine interactions is nothing but socialization. Okay, so unconscious dispositions, the lived experience, inculcated through socialization. Okay, so symbolic domination based on that, based on the lived experience you've learned through socialization, rather than through cognitive processes ascribed to a rational subject. This part is nothing but your rationalization and thematization. So just the repetition of the same thing. A really good reader would just read one word in this, that my lived experience is more important than my rationalization or my cognition or what I understand through my intelligence. My experience is more important than my internal intelligence working. That's all this whole paragraph saying, a bunch of really fancy words. And this is what puts off the bad readers sometimes, because you think a lot of important stuff is happening. Nothing so great is really happening. It's just a play of a little bit of vocab. See, this is also why your vocab should be good. Whoever tells you that, I'm still really annoyed by a few videos available online where people say vocabulary is not important. You can just contextually understand stuff like this. You can't contextually understand the meaning of the word. Okay, it's really bad advice. Vocab is important. Okay, but read good stuff. Then go to the dictionary. Don't be lazy. Check the meanings of the words. Note them somewhere. Okay, or just download Merriam-Webster on your phone and then just adds. Merriam-Webster has the saved words. You can just click on the flag and save the word, the ribbon. And keep revising it every day. Your vocab has to improve. Okay, it's a superpower, and you need it for the rest of your life. It's not just for CAT, mind you. Once see, okay, abhi you will not learn vocab. Somehow you manage to get 99% or whatever, and end up at NIM. Then what will you do? You still have to study, and it's a very stupid world that will keep judging you on the basis of your English, even though it's a stupid language. It'll keep judging you on how your English is, rather than how hardworking you are, how honest you are, and all those other beautiful qualities that people possess. But the world judges you on your English. So, and it's the easiest thing to learn. A little bit of effort and repay you for the rest of your life. So don't be lazy. Use the dictionary properly. Learn the words. Okay, learn the language. Learn the rules. They're not that difficult. Enough gyan. Coming back to this perspective provides a model of symbolic domination. Based on what? Based on unconscious dispositions inculcated through participation in routine interactions rather than through cognitive process ascribed to a rational subject. That's all there is to it. Now I'll show you the sentence structure. Okay, how the look at how the sentence structure works here. Let me just clear this up a little bit for you. Okay, from here. Now look at this part again. This perspective provides a model of symbolic domination. Okay, that is idea number one. This perspective provides a model of symbolic domination, whatever that is. This perspective attempts to integrate the Heideggerian theme of primacy of our being in the world with traditional social science methods. This, which is what we call, so this is called a relative clause. Okay, so it's like relatives tag along with you and you can never really get rid of them. The relative clause tags along with the main clause to give extra information. It's not like two different clauses. The relative clause just adds extra information to the main clause. And which are the words that give you relative clauses? Who, which, that, whom. These words give you relative clauses. Okay, so which attempts to integrate Heideggerian theme of the primacy of our being in the world with traditional social science methods provides a model of symbolic domination. That is idea number one. Symbolic domination of what? Symbolic domination based on unconscious dispositions. Okay, so extension of the same idea. It's not a new idea. Based on unconscious dispositions is a phrase that is getting added. Inculcated through participation in routine interactions rather than through cognitive processes. So participation in routine interactions rather than through cognitive process. Routine interaction versus cognitive. So this rather than, you have symmetry on either side. Okay, A rather than B. So whenever you see connectors like these, rather than, not only but also, as and as, so and as, isn't it? You would have seen a lot of these expressions, either or, neither nor. There is symmetry. Okay, so inculcated through participation in X rather than Y. X is routine interactions, lived experience, rather than through cognitive processes ascribed to a rational subject, which is rationalization and thematization. So the idea of this whole paragraph, if you're someone who summarizes really well, think about it. Okay, in your head, think of the most important keyword. I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it. What do you think is the most important keyword of this particular paragraph? In the end, it has to come down to one or two words. That's how you know you've understood the paragraph. It's always one or two words. So can you really point out that one or two keywords? Yes, you can. For example, in this case, critique of culture was important. But culture as a rational system made up of beliefs or hierarchically organized rules. Okay, and then we move on to the importance of socialization and priority of our lived experience, and then keeps repeating the same thing. So lived experience or socialization is the most important keyword of this particular paragraph. Okay, moving further. In Giddens' view, social agents and social structures represent a temporally and spatially organized reproductive process whereby society provides resources for organizing the social life of its members, while members' use of such resources in turn reproduces them. Again, a really long sentence, complicated sentence. You'll have to learn how to break it, right? In Giddens' view, this is your phrase. Okay, so we don't need to worry about it. Some guy's view, just like Bodo has been particularly influential. Here it says in Giddens' view, okay, social agents and social structures represent a temporally and spatially organized reproductive process. Okay, this is idea number one. Social agents and social structures represent a temporary, as opposed to spiritual. Okay, so social agents and social structures represent a temporally and spatially organized reproductive process. Now, the question that you should ask here is, what exactly is the reproductive process? Really good readers should always get these doubts, should know what has been explained, what has not been explained. Social agents and social structures represent a temporally and spatially organized reproductive process, whereby, so this is the explanation now. This is the second, this basically functions like a connector or a conjunction between two different clauses. Social agents and social structures represent a temporally and spatially organized reproductive process. Society provides resources for organizing the social life of its members, while members' use of such resources in turn reproduces them. Okay, so this is another conjunction. So look at the structure of this particular sentence. Okay, it is A, which is the idea, social agents and social structures. This is what you call a phrase, social agents and social structures, because it's a group of words that makes partial sense but doesn't have a complete idea. Complete idea is a clause which has a subject and verb combination. So social agents and social structures, subject, represent is the verb. So these two put together is the clause. So A represents B. A represents a temporally and spatially organized reproductive process. Idea number one, A, whereby, which is your conjunction, whereby, okay, society provides resources for organizing the social life of its members. That's the second idea, second clause B. And then a conjunction while, okay, members' use of such resources in turn reproduces them, which is C. Okay, so the idea of this particular sentence is like this: A whereby, B while C. Okay, think of it like a maths equation. So B while C is one idea. This idea is connected to this idea. Okay, so in Giddens' view, social agents and social structures represent a temporally and spatially organized reproductive process. What is a reproductive process? The reproductive process where society provides resources for organizing the social life of its members. Okay, so members socialize, and the society is giving them the resources they need to socialize and organize a social life. The society is basically the immediate world around us. And members, while members are getting this benefit from society to organize their social life, they are using those resources, in turn reproduces them. So you'll have to ask what exactly is the them. Okay, while members' use of such resources in turn reproduces them. Them is your resources again. So society provides resources, members use those resources, members' use of that resources again produces more resources. Okay, so society creates the social life of members, and when members are creating their social life, more social life is created out of it. That is the reproductive process. Okay, and then if you notice, the same idea is repeated again. The idea of the structural properties of social systems as both medium and outcome of the practices they recursively organize is consistent with the perspective of linguistic anthropologists, who view talk not simply as a medium for the representation of a language independent reality, but also as a ubiquitous resource for reproducing social reality and hence existing relations of power and dependence. Now, really good readers would actually read it only once, okay? Because a lot of it is just repetition. Let's start with the double dash. The double dash, earlier I told you about double comma, right? The double dash exactly works like the double comma. So you can put brackets around this. Giddens' principle of the duality of structure should not disturb you, should not really disturb you from the actual sentence that you're reading, okay? Because it's in double dash, it's just repetition, okay? The idea of the structural properties of social systems, we already read about it here, right? So the social structures representing temporally and spatially organized process. Same structural properties we are talking about here again. So the idea of the structural properties of social systems as both medium and outcome, because the society is the medium for your social life. Society or social life is also the outcome of your social life, right? That's why we called it a reproductive process. So the idea of the structural properties of social systems, that idea of structural properties of social systems as both medium, so structural properties as medium, structural properties as outcome of the practices they recursively organize. They recursively because it's repetition, right? Recursion happening again and again like a loop. That idea, so this idea, so here you can put brackets, okay? The idea, whatever that idea is, okay, once you have to understand what the idea is, which is this repetition of the previous sentence, this idea is consistent with, now remember this expression consistent with, because you're going to see this a lot in academic language. Something A is consistent with B means A agrees with B, okay, or A and B are similar. So this idea that society is our medium and society is also what we produce when we are living our social life, that idea is consistent with the perspective of linguistic anthropologists. This sentence actually ends here, okay? Now your relative clause starts. The explanation of what is the perspective of linguistic anthropologists. What's the perspective of linguistic anthropologists? We already know that it's very similar to this idea, the idea that we recursively reorganize, social life. Linguistic anthropologists who view talk not simply as a medium for the representation of a language independent reality, talking, okay? So social life has now been replaced with talking because we are talking about linguistic anthropologists. So who view talk not simply as a medium for the representation of a language independent reality. Now you can actually guess what's coming next. Medium and outcome, right? So talk is not just the medium for representation of a language independent reality. Talk is basically a medium through which we are representing a reality that is not dependent on language. But talk is also a ubiquitous resource. Ubiquitous means present everywhere. Talk is also a ubiquitous resource for reproducing social reality, which is the same thing that we're talking about here, right? We are reproducing them. We are reproducing the resources that we are using up, the social life. So talk is also a resource. So talk is a medium for representing our reality. Talk is also a resource for reproducing social reality, comma, and hence existing relations of power and dependence. This is the dangerous comma, okay? So watch out for commas like these. Who view talk not simply as a medium for the representation of a language independent reality, but, which is your conjunction, so who view talk not simply as this, but also as this. That's the structure again, okay? So watch out for these parallel structures. So linguistic anthropologists view talk not simply as a medium, but also as a ubiquitous resource. Ubiquitous resource for what? Ubiquitous resource for reproducing social reality, and ubiquitous resource for but also as a ubiquitous resource for reproducing social reality, and hence existing relations of power and dependence, okay? So this last part is a tricky part. You have to equate this particular part also. Hence existing relations of power and dependence. Existing relations of power and dependence is basically a noun, okay? So it has to be equated to another noun in the sentence. So they view talk not simply as a medium for the representation of a language independent reality, but also as a ubiquitous resource for reproducing social reality, and hence existing relations of power and dependence. A ubiquitous resource for reproducing social reality, reproducing existing relations of power and dependence. So social reality and existing relations of power and dependence both are reproduced. So talk reproduces social reality. Talk also reproduces existing relations of power and dependence, besides acting as a medium. So look at how complicated this sentence gets, okay? So the idea, think of it this way. So there is an idea, okay? This idea, what is this idea representing? Of the structural properties of social systems as both medium and outcome. That idea is consistent with what linguistic anthropologists think, okay? So the basic idea is that our social life is the medium, our social life is also the outcome. Linguistic anthropologists also agree with that idea. They view talk as the medium as well as the outcome, as the medium for the representation of reality, and also the resource that reproduces that reality, and also the resource that reproduces existing relations of power and dependence. So reality is nothing but relations of power and dependence, right? So these two are equated again. So this whole paragraph is talking about recursion, basically. So this whole paragraph, what is the main keyword? The reproductive process is the main keyword. So para 1 is talking about lived experience. Para 2 is talking about the reproductive process of that lived experience. So this whole thing is just talking about one. So what is the main idea? The main idea just combines both the keywords, or all the keywords of all the paragraphs that you've read. So it's combining lived experience and how we recursively produce our social life based on our lived experience, okay? So that's how you read. You kind of break, and really good readers just do this instinctively. So you have to keep reading complicated stuff like this, breaking sentences like this, and doing this analysis, and while improving your vocabulary, so that you build your reading ability, okay? So if you feel that this whatever you've listened to in this video, this actually helps you, leave a comment, and I'll probably make a few questions on this also if you want, or I can continue discussing because some more interesting paragraphs after this. But this is by and large an extension of what I showed you in sentence structures, right? How the sentences, complicated sentences, are broken down. You'll have to learn how to break them down, okay? Also, just to give you a very quick idea, the author's style of writing here is what we call explanatory style of writing, okay? Explanatory because the author is trying to teach you something, okay? And the tone is what we call pedagogic, okay? The pedagogy basically means educational. So the author is trying to teach you something. So explanatory style of writing, and so what is the difference between style and tone? And pedagogic style of pedagogy is the tone. So style is basically how the information has been represented, and tones basically the author's mood, okay? Was the author in a positive mood, negative mood, or neutral mood? Here neutral. What neutral means? Mood to teach you objectively and explain. So pedagogic, more academic, okay? So I hope this video is of some help to you guys. Do let me know how it went, and probably I'll make questions on similar stuff. Until next time, peace out.